All right, hello everyone. Tonight I am streaming for 20 minutes and I am going to be starting a bit of a creative process on a new project. I'm going to try to go for as close to 20 minutes to exactly as possible. The goal with this stream is kind of a 20 minutes a day thing where I've only got so much time each day, so I'm trying to create something within that time frame. Okay. I want to start a new comic project, but I'm not entirely sure what I want it to be. So this is not necessarily me going to be drawing pages all the time. It's going to be kind of every step, me thinking through things and so forth. Uh, Eventually we'll get to that. But I want this to be a slice of life story. Um, when I was younger, I used to love drawing kind of action comics, manga, things like that. And as I've gotten older, I don't know, I want something that's a little bit more therapeutic, a little bit more relatable. So it's kind of a silly idea, but I had this idea. I want to do something about this guy who's an entrepreneur. Let's see if I can spell it. Entrepreneur. Or rather, he's an aspiring one. So I had this thought, what if it's someone who, they work a day job. They don't want to be working a day job, but they are. They're trying to make the most out of it, and just kind of do it anyways. Let's see. Okay, so he's got a day job. I was thinking he could be a software developer. Uh, I don't think I've seen really any manga about software developers or computer programmers. If you know of any, let me know. But one of my personal challenges to myself is simply, can I make this look cool? Can I make a story about a software developer and make it interesting? I feel like that would be a bit of a hard challenge, but I think I can give it a shot. What does this say? Warning. Stream is lower than current meant to. It's still going. That'll be okay. Got a warning there about the stream. Okay. So, another thing that I don't see very often is about a married protagonist. I just finished. It's called Mission Yozakura Family, and I was intrigued because the main character was married, and you don't see that very often. Even though they didn't really do much with it first, about 2/3 of the way of the story, they start doing more with that. But it changed up. It's a different dynamic. Now I'm married, and so I thought that would also make it more relatable. So he's married, he's got kids, uh, loves to play video games. Video games. Not, and then maybe he loves to read. And I think those are the big things. So he does, for this one, I think he loves programming. He loves programming, he loves writing code, but not for others. And that's kind of the big part of the story where he's trying to overcome is how do I take this thing that I love and turn it into something that I can do for myself. So I'll even call that, let's call that the quest. Do the thing I love for myself. All right, I think that gives us enough information to at least start fleshing out a character. So I'm going to turn that layer off and make a new one and start doodling at least a face. So let's see, what kind of important elements on one hand, I want to do glasses. On the other, I don't, simply because I wore them in the past and I don't now. I got LASIK. I think I'm going to go with no glasses. Because I kind of want the character... It's kind of a personal expression story. So, no glasses, because I don't. You know what? Let's go back over here real quick. Sorry, got a little bit of something in my throat. I'll try to mute before I clear it. Okay, so I have OCD and I have high functioning autism. So I think I'm going to have this character have it as well. Okay, so I'm there's already setting my OCD off. All right, OCD. Okay, now that I got that sorted, and along with this, I've got a lot of texture sensitivities. I find most clothes extremely uncomfortable. So, because there's no action in the story, like there'll be a little here and there, but because it's not an action-oriented story, like say Dragon Ball or One Piece or Naruto or something like that, where there's a lot of action that goes on in these, there's not going to be any power scaling. I need to replace that with something else, and so this creates an internal battle that the character will have to navigate, as he's also trying to navigate this desire to take the thing that he loves and do it for himself. So no glasses. I think I'm going to give him some kind of dark brownish auburny hair. And then I think brown eyes. Okay, so let me go ahead and try to put a face together just real quick. I'll go for a bit of a 3/4 view. I'm not entirely sure what style I want to draw this in. My style fits kind of naturally somewhere between Japanese manga and Western comics. There's elements I've taken from both, and I'm not really sure what I'd call it. For example, I draw more detailed noses, but I still use a lot of kind of the more manga style eyes. Okay. Down this way. I like to draw the center line on the face, and then I'll kind of kick it out here roughly where the nose is and bring it back this way, because I feel like it helps me get a better understanding for how this head is actually turning in real space. Flatten out that chin just a little bit. Kind of bring the skull out this way just a smidgen. Okay. I think I'm going to have him, instead of having kind of these pointy eyebrows like this, I think I'm going to bulk them up just a little bit like that on both ends. Maybe just a very slight curve on each side. More of a this kind of shape. If you got any questions about what I'm doing, feel free to ask. I'm happy to talk about my thought processes. All right. So I come down to the nose, and I like to kind of round it off right here. This space under, I'll talk about that in a second. And then I kind of like to show the nostrils just a bit. And this tends to be where I feel like I'm not doing a very manga-y type thing, because most of the mangas that I read have very simplistic noses, kind of more like this. Or maybe they'll have a little nostril like that, and I tend to define more the nose. This space down here, I never know what it's called, but I tend to draw it a little bit more like that. Now I don't need to like make it super detailed, but just a little hint of it so that I know it's there. All right. Let's get a mouth in there. So I got the basic structure. So I kind of have his mouth open like this because I kind of want to give the idea that he's got some confidence, but maybe not a ton of it. And he's still trying to figure out what he's doing. So the eyes. I feel like the eyes are where things kind of get a little challenging because we want to, the eyes tell a lot about the character. And so if your eyes are too sharp, it makes it look like the character's ready for a fight. But if they are too open, it makes it look like he's more playful. So the question becomes, what shape to communicate personality? I think I'm going to go with a little bit of a slightly more boxy shape for the eyes. I'll explain what I mean by that, what I was saying a bit ago. So I had a character, and I would draw his eyes like this. And even without drawing an eyeball in there, like that feels like a very aggressive eye shape, like that character is ready to fight. From there, I've got another one. I kind of start with this same basic mark here, but then this eye opens up a bit more like this. Come down like this. And this character's a lot, this eye does not communicate the same level of aggression that this one does. It's a lot more passive. So for this one, I'm going to actually kind of come over like that a little bit. Down like this. I think that kind of gives him a little bit of a, yeah, I'm ready to do some stuff type appearance. I just don't know what that stuff is going to be. Okay, so there's the basic shape for the eyes. Let's see. Now the real question is the hair, I think, for hair. What kind of hair do I want to give him? Do I want it to be... I'm not a big fan of spiky hair. Maybe that's because I've got psoriasis on my head. I can't have a whole lot of hair on my head. And so I tend to reflect that in some of my characters as well. You know, a lot of us, when we write stories, our characters are kind of meant to be like reflections of who we are. And I try to capture some of that as well. That who we are as characters, representations of ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to make a new layer so I can kind of just experiment with the hair. I'm thinking maybe swooping down a little bit like this. Yeah, I think I want to play with a slightly bigger brush. Okay. Try to focus on the shape of it. Some sideburns right here, so maybe like that. I don't know, that doesn't feel quite right. It feels like it's moving in the right direction, but isn't quite what I'm going for. Alright, I'm just going to turn that off rather than deleting it. I think what I'm also going to do is move this down, give myself some more space to actually work on the hair. Okay, back to the brush. Let's make another new layer. What if we gently come down the other way a little bit? That's not too bad. Okay. I guess one thing to consider is this guy works in an office as well, so he would need something to handle that. Maybe one of his goals is eventually to be able to work from home as well. That's not bad. So if it gets me generally where I want to be, I'll lower the opacity, make a new layer, go back to my sketching brush, and try to refine the shape. So maybe something like this. Come down this way just a bit. I think kind of back that way. There's the sideburns. I don't want it quite spiking out that far. And I might even try to smooth this out later. But I think that his head feels really flat on the top. I think that gets me more or less where I want to be with this character idea. Let's see, I got about 3.5 minutes left. Let's throw some very, very simple colors underneath this. Now I'm going to make his skin a bit more on the pale side because he works in an office all the time. He doesn't get works in an office, and when he's at home, his hobbies usually involve being on the computer, so he doesn't get a lot of sun. So I'm going to reflect that as best as I can in his complexion. I know I could just use a fill. I really like actually scratching in the paint myself. Okay, and then let's get a very light and a little bit more red, auburny color for the hair. Again, if you got any questions, feel free to ask. I love to talk about the art or the story ideas or just kind of anything. It's fun to discuss things. Okay. Maybe I will go ahead and use just a little bit of a fill there since I've got 2 minutes left. Okay. Now I'm going to make another layer and just add some very simple shading to the skin. I'm going to go a little bit on the gray side. Not because I want him to be sickly looking, but just, again, that idea, he doesn't get out very much. And so it kind of helps communicate that, you know, this guy could probably benefit from a little bit of time outside. It would do him some good. Now, you know, he is human, so he's not going to be completely devoid of all color. So there's a little bit up around the hairline, kind of around under the eyes. Let's get a little bit lighter. And I think that more or less gives us a very rough first iteration of this character to go off of. So I have not picked out a name for this guy yet. So I think very tentatively I'm just going to call him Mr. Code or Mr. Coder. So we'll just write that here. Mr. Code. there's his temporary name until I've got one. Well, thank you very much for joining me for this first little run on creating in 20 minutes a day. I appreciate you hanging out with me for a bit.